All right, so I went back through and was just going over my video that I made for y'all, and I noticed that the volume, for whatever reason, got all messed up the last part of the PowerPoint. So I'm gonna make another part of it. When you get to that part where the volume starts to mess up, just close that one and you'll come to this one. I'll explain it in the update. All right. But anyway, so we were talking about the Munich conference. All right. And this was that big meeting that they had at after Hitler took over Austria and took Sudetenland, and everybody thought war was coming. That all the powers to be, the French Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, his name is Neville Chamberlain, and Hitler had a meeting in Munich. He had him down, and basically Hitler's trying to explain Anschluss. You know, he wanted to unify all the German-speaking people under one rule. That's all he was trying to do. Now, that he wants to do way more than that, but that's his sell. All right, and he basically bullies Neville Chamberlain so bad at this conference um, that it's ridiculous. All right. I mean, he goes after him, and Neville Chamberlain just caved into him, gave him another country, Austria, and gave him part of another country, Czechoslovakia. He said, "Yeah, you can have that." I don't know who he thought he was to be giving land away. Anyway, so again, here's the map, and you can see that good old Germany was most of this. Right, Austria was down here. Okay, well, Hitler's going to go in and take over Austria. That's where he was born and raised. And so he thinks that Austria and Germany are all one anyway. And then this area of Czechoslovakia here that's this reddish color, that is Sudetenland. And a lot of the people that lived in Sudetenland were German-speaking people, and Hitler thought that that's why that he should take it over, is because it's German. Now, over here we see the area that's Rhineland. The Rhine River runs right through the middle of this and then splits the border between the Netherlands and Belgium right here. All right, so this area of Germany is called Rhineland because it's on either side of the Rhine River. All right, and you'll see that the Rhineland butts right up against France, butts right up against Belgium, and according to the Treaty of Versailles, Hitler wasn't supposed to have anybody in here. Well, he ignores the Treaty of Versailles and he starts putting people in here in 1935 and 1936 to kind of test the waters to see what the French will do. Well, the French and the British do nothing. Now, had they, dealt with Hitler in 1935 and 36, it would have been a lot easier than trying to deal with him in 1939 when he invades Poland and starts the war, because by that 3 years was all that he needed to completely rebuild his Army, Navy, and Air Force. All right, by 1939, it's too late. All right, but if they would have just dealt with him when he first put troops into Rhineland in the early 1930s, they would have had a way better shot at defeating him. All right, but instead they let him completely rebuild, and that's the downfall. Now, some other things about the Munich conference. So Hitler, he knows that Great Britain and France don't want to go to war and they're afraid. All right, so he keeps pushing the issue. He gets more and more outlandish as the meeting goes on. All right. And finally, they come to an agreement, and the British Prime Minister, his name was Neville Chamberlain, he goes back to Great Britain and he claims to be a hero. Hey, look, man, I've done it. I avoided war. And in his big quote in all the newspapers, we have achieved peace in our time. So this was Neville Chamberlain's quote. Now, one of the guys that was a British Parliament member, his name was Winston Churchill. He's going to end up being the prime minister after Chamberlain loses the election. This is going to be their leader during the war. Well, Winston Churchill doesn't like it at all that France and Great Britain gave in to Hitler and let him take territory. All right, so you can see right here, it says he was upset with the decision to appease Hitler. To appease means to give into. All right, and he felt that Great Britain and France had turned their back on Czechoslovakia, and he had this famous quote. This quote's really important. It's on the test. All right, Churchill's quote was, Great Britain and France had to choose between war and dishonor. We chose dishonor, and now we'll get war. All right, that's his famous quote. And basically he's saying, hey, you gave in to him. and he's going to do something else that's going to cause the war anyway. You might as well have dealt with him now instead of waiting for later. All right. And so, anyway, within a year, Hitler has taken all of Czechoslovakia over, and pretty much everything that Churchill said came true. Now, another big event happens in late 1938 is called the Night of Broken Glass. All right, the Kristallnacht is the German word, but in English it just means Night of Broken Glass. And basically, this is really the beginning of the Holocaust. This is when Hitler really starts to go after the Jews. This is when he starts to really, crack down. He destroys all the synagogues. He destroys all Jewish businesses, and pretty much runs roughshod over the Jews. And Jews having anything in Germany after this weekend of 1938, this is it. They have nothing. Everything's destroyed. They have no way economically to provide for their families. And the Jews that were smart really were the ones that left. They took off. They said, we're getting out of here. And because within a year, he was rounding them up, sending them to concentration camps. Right? Now, 1939 is the year that the war is going to start. And so Hitler, his next big thing that he has is he has eyed up Poland. He wants Poland. And so, but he realizes if he invades Poland, it might spark a war with the Soviet Union, with Stalin. So he doesn't want that. So he goes, meets with Stalin, and signs an agreement called the Non-Aggression Pact. All right, we learned about this when we did Stalin, when we did the Russian Revolution. We learned about this agreement. And basically, they agreed not to go to war over Poland. All right, secretly, Hitler said, look, we're going to invade Poland. You take the eastern half, we'll take the western half. Realizing that, Hitler realizing, hey, they can have the eastern half at the beginning. We're going to eventually invade the Soviet Union, take all of their land too. But for right now, we don't want to go to war with them. So they agree to this agreement, and everybody pretty much knows it's supposed to be secret, but everybody pretty much knows that this agreement signed. Great Britain realizes, hey, when they're signing this agreement, they're getting ready to invade Poland. Great Britain knew it, so Great Britain signs an agreement called the Mutual Assistance Treaty, where they agree to help Poland if somebody would attack them. Well, by this point, Hitler is not afraid of Great Britain at all. So they end up invading Poland. This marks the beginning of World War II. They used the Blitzkrieg. And remember that Blitzkrieg is a military style of attack where you use airplanes and tanks at the same time in conjunction with each other. And it was a brutal form of attack that he used it. He first practiced it during the Spanish Civil War in 1936, and he was ready. All right. So but basically what happens, Poland gets invaded, and then Great Britain, France, Austria, and New Zealand. And again, Australia and New Zealand are both former British colonies. So they're going to side with the mother country, and they declare war on Germany, but it doesn't matter. Nobody can stop Hitler's big war machine. And they quickly get invaded and taken over too. All right. And so now Poland, the Germans go screaming into Poland. Well, as soon as Germany invades Poland, so does the Soviet Union. And the Soviets are going to come in and take the eastern half of Poland for themselves. And so now we've got war going on. All right. So this is the stuff leading us up to war. All right. And again, I just did this back half because I noticed that the volume's really bad on the first half, and I didn't want to redo the whole thing. So those of you that want to see it, here it is.